Hey everybody, this is Matt with ecigadvanced.com, and today we want to take a look at the new Lavatube version 2 from Volcano eCigs. The Lavatube version 2 is a completely redesigned unit from Volcano. With very little in common with the original Lavatube. First of all, doesn't look anything like the original Lavatube, other than you have a plus and a minus menu button here. The fourth button, which used to be the fire button over on the side, is gone and been replaced with one large silver bullet style button that acts as the on-off and your fire button. Still has a native 510 connection, but no more plastic top or bottom caps. It's a two-piece design that screws apart in the middle. It's all aluminum, it's anodized, comes in 5 different colors. This one's their blue, and we're going to take some close-up of it here in just a second, and we're going to talk a little bit about how it works. The device is pulse width modulated to a point. In other words, at lower voltages it does have a pulse width modulated output. When you reach the capacity of the battery towards your upper limit of your voltage spectrum, it does sort of kind of behave like a direct current out. And I'll show you that later on when we look at the data. Right now, let's take a look at this thing close up and go over the menu functions and how it works. And we'll talk about some of the features of it. Alright, so let's take a look at the Lavatube version 2. First of all, let's take a look at the body. As you can see, it is anodized aluminum. It does have these little markings in it that are part of the metal. It's got the Lavatube logo here. At the bottom you can see it's got the Volcano symbol and 2 vent holes. And at the top you can see it's got a native 510 connection. No real drip well. And we do have this little hole here that's designed for a lanyard if you so choose to use one. In the face of it, you can see you've got a screen. It is a very bright blue screen that is easily seen and works well. You've got a very large fire button, very reminiscent of the silver bullet, and you have a down and an up that controls your voltage. But they also do a couple other things. We'll talk about that in a minute. To get to the battery, it's just a simple two-piece design. You unscrew the bottom from the top in the middle, remove your battery, and you have a hot spring in there. And then in this side you have the circuitry that does have a plastic shield around it to try to protect, somewhat protect it from this part of it. So battery goes in, the positive side up towards the components. Screw it together. Very good fit and finish, very good threading, very well machined, very nice. Okay, let's talk about the menu system. When you first change the battery, you're going to have to turn the device on, and it's a 5-click on, and then you can see the bright blue screen. Got a little bit of reflection from my lighting, and I apologize for that. And then to change the voltage, it's going to reset. Always when you take the battery out, it's going to default to 3 volts. So you can change it up in 0.1 increments, or you can change it down in 0.1 increments, and set it to wherever you want. Alright, when you're moving the voltage up, it does round robin, so you get to 6 volts, it does go back to 3, and if you're at 3 volts, it will go back, round up to 6. So keep that in mind. It doesn't stop, it will go back and reset. Now, the other things these buttons do, if you press and hold the positive, it's going to tell you your resistance. Now, there's nothing on mine, so it's just going to say 9.9. But if I put something on it, and I'll show you that in a minute, it'll tell you the resistance of your whatever you have attached. If you press and hold the minus, it'll tell you what you have left on your battery. It's got 3.6 volts, so just a little below half discharged. Turn the device off, 5 clicks, and the device turns off. Okay, here we have the Lavatube now with a cartomizer attached. It's an 801 Fusion, and we will press and hold the positive button, and it tells me it's 2.8 ohms. You can see the little ohm symbol up at the top there. So ohm checker, voltage checker, plus or minus on your selectable voltage. Fire, 5 clicks on off. Those are the features. Alright, one last thing I want to talk about is this has a little bit of a delay in it. When you press the button, it takes a second for it to come on. I mean, just a split second for it to come on. And then when you release the button, it's, a quarter second to a half a second for it to turn off. And I just wanted to show you that here real quick. Press the button, release the button. And the delay is the same duration from the start to the finish, and I'm not exactly sure why it does that. I just know that it does. Alright, let's take a look at some data. And on the left we have a fresh battery, and on the right we have a drain battery. And then using a 1.4 ohm dual coil, a 1.8 ohm single coil, a 2.6 ohm single coil, and a 3.2 ohm single coil, all cartomizers. And you can see that set to 3, 3.5, 4, and so on, that, as long as it doesn't meet the limit, it pretty much holds true to what you set it at. So 3 volts, you get about 3 volts. 3.5, you get about 3.5. 4, you get 4. 4.5, you get 4.5. Until, when you're in the lower ohms, you're in the 1.4 ohm and the 1.8 ohm, it kind of levels off at about 4.5 volts. Just because the battery can't push anymore, and I'm going to show you why that is here shortly. But with the standard resistance, the 2.6 and the 3.2, you'll see that it pretty much hangs tight, hangs right there with, the setting. So, and then looking at the right side of the graph, you can see that, for the most part, even with a mostly drained battery, the same holds true. The waveform does change a little bit. The duty cycle increases, even though the peak to peak does get smaller, showing that the device compensates for the draining battery until where you get towards 5.5 volts. Especially you can see with the 2.6 ohm, it just the battery can't give anymore, so it kind of levels off at about 5.5 volts there. And you'll notice on the lower ohm cardos, the 1.4 DCC and the 1.8 ohm single coil, that it does top off at a lower voltage than initially with a fresh battery. Okay, now let's look at current in amps. This is the output. Volcano claims that it has a 3 amp output limit. Not really. Yes and no. If you're using a 1.4 ohm dual coil cardo, you can actually get above 3 amps, and it's like 3.2 amps output. And I've actually put the numbers at the top here because I thought it was important for you to be able to see exactly what they were. We're talking, 3.19, 3.17, more than 3. But when you're looking at a 1.8 ohm, as much as you're going to get out of it is 2.4. So it's not quite 3. So what's going on here? Is it really a 3 amp limit, or is there something else going on? And then, when you're talking about your standard resistance, your 2.6 and 3.2, you got a steady incline, and you haven't even come close to hitting, any kind of limitation on the device. So what is going on with the current limit? It's not really a switch amp limit. Like the device isn't saying, okay, you reach 3 and I'm shutting off. What it's doing is it's pushing as much as it juice out of that battery as that device can do, and then it can't do anymore. And I'm going to show that on the scope here in a minute. So it's not a limit in the sense that we're used to thinking of a limit. It's a limit in that just the device can't push anymore. So let's look at the scope. Alright, I wanted to show you guys that this Lavatube 2 is actually pulse width modulated. This is my oscilloscope and showing the signal set to 4 volts on the device, and you can see with VRMS it's actually 3.96 volts. I have a duty cycle of 57% and a frequency of 33.4. Now, interesting thing about that frequency, it's pretty low. The ZMAX V2 in the original V2 version of Lavatube that wasn't released actually cycled at 50 hertz. And this one, you know, I described it, makes that kind of the noise of the atomizer, and you can kind of almost hear the pulses firing on the coil. Well, this is why. It's because this frequency is so low. So that explains why you hear that fluttering sound when the atomizer fires. And you can see that it obviously tuned to VRMS because it's set to 4 volts and it's 3.96, and if we were still tuning to voltage average, we'd be right at 2.92. So obviously it's tuned correctly there. And I wanted to go again and show you something here with the flutter. And you can hear, I'm going to set it to 3.5 volts, and you can hear the flutter. And you can see the flutter due to that frequency. Let me put it back in trigger normal, acquire, average, and measure. Okay, I'm going to let you listen to this flutter again, and you'll see in the frequency, it's a low frequency, 33.47 hertz, and you can hear that flutter. That flutter's due to the low frequency of 33.47 hertz. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you was when the device is actually turned up and we hit what we call our amp limit. I'm not so sure if it's an amp limit or just a limit of the battery or the device itself to be able to push that battery, because we go from this pulse width modulated, and I need to change some things here. Go into my trigger menu, put it in auto mode and acquire, and change that to sampling, and go back to measure menu here. Okay, and you'll see that it's a line, and hit stop on that. All right, so I've got it set to 6 volts, and it is a 2.2 ohm cartomizer. We're showing not really a flat line, it's kind of a messy flat line at there, and it's showing at 5.12 volts. So that, it's not really an amp limiter per se, it's just that's all the device can give you, because that's all that it can take from the battery. There's no more pulse width modulation going on, it's just giving you all it's got, and that's all it can do. Alright, the last thing I want to show you is I've got it set to trigger on the back edge of the waveform, because I want to show you the delay. You know, some devices on the delay, the signal is up here and just kind of tapers off for that half a second or so. This one doesn't do that, it just actually continues to fire. And to demonstrate it right, I'm not actually using it in pulse width. I've got it jacked up so that I can get the flat line that's basically pushing everything the battery can push. I'm going to hit the button, and when I take my finger off the button, it'll fire for, you know, split second after I release the button, but I want you to be able to hear it, so I have to hold it up next to my microphone. But I want you to see the back end of that wave, and I'll try to stop it. We'll see if we can do it or not. And let's go. All right, it's firing, and button's off. All right, so this is the back end of the wave. This is a quarter second or so past when I took my finger off the button, continuing to fire pretty much at full speed, and then just stops. So not really sure why it does that. The little delay there. I've noticed that's a trend in a lot of these mods coming out of China, is there's that little glitch. It just hangs on for that split second after you release the button. I know the ZMAX version 1 and version 2 both do it, and this one does too. Maybe I just wanted to show you that it does do it, and I can't really explain why. Let's talk pricing. For the tube itself, which is what I have, it was $79.99. If you want the whole kit, which comes with a case Comes with a standard resistance atomizer, a matching anodized drip tip, a single 18650 AWIMR battery, an X-Star WP2 charger, and a tank, I believe. It's $139.99. That's a lot of stuff that comes with it, and at a good price, and a device that actually works well. So that's the pricing. Again, this is Matt with ecigadvanced.com. For more news, reviews, and content, please be sure to check out our site at ecigadvanced.com, and be sure to check out our forum at ecigadvanced.com/forums, where you can join our community and earn points to vape for free. Thank you, and we'll catch you next time.